Here's a quick take from the YoJoeShow podcast.
On September 11th, 24 years ago, I worked in a small office in Fort Lauderdale and walked into the office just before 9 o'clock. The first plane hit, I think it was 8:46 in the morning. And I walked in like maybe a minute after that. As I walked in, our administrative assistant was standing there in front of the television in the office, literally with her jaw dropped open, watching the image on the screen that was being covered live at this point. And she had just been in New York like the day before, and she'd visited the World Trade Center. So she was like, I was in there yesterday. And as we stood there in total horror and shock, a few minutes later we saw the second plane hit. Later on, our building was evacuated. I think we're in the second tallest building in Fort Lauderdale. So there was concerns. So they actually had the whole building evacuated and went home and tried to make sense of all of this. And the thing that I recall out of all of that the most, aside from seeing a whole bunch of police cars circling an apartment complex on the way home, which later supposedly had something to do with this, was an email we received. At the time, I worked for MetLife Insurance Company, and they had an office, I believe it was on the 89th floor of the North Tower. And someone from that office sent an email internally, which I wish I still had a copy of it, but the gist of the email was like this. I think there was like 35 people or so that were in that office, and three of them were never accounted for. The rest survived. And the email basically recounts what happened. And they explained how working in the World Trade Center, if you don't lock your desk drawers, by the next day when you come in, the drawer would be partially open because the building actually sways a little bit. It's almost imperceptible, but it does move. The buildings were designed to have to absorb some movement. And ultimately, they said they felt the entire building like shake. Everything went flying. They knew something had happened, but they didn't know what. They explained that the loudspeakers were saying that everything was fine and just stay where they were. And they decided at some point they wanted to leave. They went to go to the door, and the door out of the office wouldn't open because the building had moved so much that the frame had bent and they were stuck in the office. And they could hear people shouting in the hallway, and they started panicking, obviously. Eventually, they figured the only way out was to try to make a hole through the wall because they couldn't get the door open. So they literally started bashing at the wall and actually cut a hole through the wall itself, which, because it's an internal wall, was only drywall, and made it into the hallway. They said they went to the stairs, they were going down. They had never taken the stairs down from 89 stories or what have you that they were at. So they didn't even know where the stairs were. Took the stairs, they went down. They got to a certain floor, I forget which one, and they said the stairs ended. And they make you have to get out of the stairwell and walk down the hall. And now at this point, there's debris and dust, and they can't see what's going on. And they couldn't even find the other stairs. They finally did. Anyways, they recount finally making it down to the last few floors as they were trying to leave the building. And at that point, they saw the firefighters going up, wearing their Scott packs, their facial masks, and so forth. And they were running up the
True
stairs.
heroes.
Yeah, they were going up as everyone was trying to
True
get down.
heroes.
It was an account of helping someone that was having trouble moving and being able to walk. I can only imagine going down almost 90 stories. So ultimately, this person said they got down, they saw what was happening, and they just decided to start running. They went back basically to the port and eventually back to New Jersey where they lived. Like a lot of people, they don't live in the city itself. And the email ends saying that night they couldn't sleep, and then they obviously by then they turned on the news and saw the totality of what had happened. And they said the image that kept just coming back in their minds was the faces of the young men, primarily, I guess that's the way they describe it, going up the stairs, and their look of like determination and knowing that not one of them ever made it out of there. And I never forgot that story. I thought it was written first point of view from the person that was there. And I think that out of all the stories I heard, that was the one that was most touching, that the person did make it out. They described the lobby was all the glass all blown out. It was very descriptive, but the thing that stuck with me was this sort of idea, the image that they had of the faces of the people that were going up to try to rescue people, and they never made it because the building shortly after they evacuated, the building collapsed.
Sean, it's me. I just wanted to let you know I love you, and I'm stuck in this building in New York. There's lots of smoke, and I just wanted you to know that I love you always.
At number 2 World Trade Center, right. 30 was students in this office. We're not ready to die, but it's getting bad.
I'm on the 83rd floor. I'm gonna die, aren't I? No. Say I'm gonna die.
Liv, say your prayers. We're gonna think positive because you gotta help each other get off the floor.
I'm
Now,
gonna die.